The root of suffering is attachment. This quote is attributed to Buddha, and a lot of other big thinkers came to the same conclusion. I'm Tom, this is Daily Friction, and today we're talking about detachment. People often think detachment means not caring, being cold or emotionless, but that's not true at all. Because detachment isn't about not feeling, it's about not clinging. And if we practice it and implement it in our lives, it can really improve our days. Okay, so let's think about this. How much of our stress, anxiety, and overthinking comes from wanting something that we're attached to, and that's outside of our control? You know, other people's approval, a certain outcome you wish for, or a version of life that just isn't there. We crave control, but control is an illusion. As David Fideler explains in Breakfast with Seneca.
In a Stoic sense, to be free is to remain undisturbed by anything that is not up to us, anything that belongs to the realm of chance or fortune.
And every time our happiness depends on something that can be taken away, we're setting ourselves up for pain. Real peace comes when we stop tying our worth and happiness to outcomes. When we stop saying, I'll be happy when. Because that when never ends. So here's something interesting I heard. Detachment isn't about walking away from life. It's about walking away from illusion. And why illusion? Because we tie our happiness to something temporary, unpredictable, and usually not even ours to control. Even the language we use is important. We say, my car, my partner, my career, my reputation, and we start to identify with all of those things. That's why we become fragile, because everything can be lost. And when this happens, sooner or later, it feels like losing a piece of ourselves, because we started to identify with that relationship, with that job, that image. And when those things are stripped away, we feel like we've lost our identity. And as mentioned before, what hurts isn't the loss itself. It's losing the illusion of permanence. We suffer because we believed something was ours, in our control, that it would last. But it never was. Something that a lot of people immediately think of when they hear about detachment is dating. And you might have heard that statement before. She's never yours, it's just your turn. It's a brutal way to remind yourself that nothing and no one belongs to you. You both decide to spend some of your time that you have on this planet with each other. But actually, that's it. Most of our suffering comes from believing the fantasy that things will stay the way we want them to. But they won't. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, the only constant in life is change. When we lose something or someone, pain says, you've lost something irreplaceable. But wisdom then should say, you've only lost an illusion. We feel pain because we're clinging to something that was never ours. So again, it's not the thing you lost, it's the illusion you lost. I think I hammered on that point enough now. So how can we get away from this? We have to remind ourselves and practice this way of thinking that everything external is on loan to us, not owned. Everything. Even our body, if you think about it on a deeper level. I read about this in The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. There's a Buddhist word that is stuck in my head since, mitakpa. It literally means impermanence.
Mitakpa is impermanence, said the Lama. He raised an arm and finger, like a professor stressing a point. Impermanence, impermanence, impermanence. This, he said, is the cornerstone of Buddhist teachings. It's the idea that everything is, well, impermanent.
Also Eckhart Tolle describes this in The Power of Now.
The cyclical nature of the universe is closely linked with the impermanence of all things and situations. The Buddha made this a central part of his teaching.
It's interesting to see that this is such an important and foundational teaching in many philosophies, and that different thinkers stress this point, right? Everything is transient, changing, fading. Nothing stays. Suffering comes from attachment. The practice is to enjoy what we have in the moment without being enslaved by it. So maybe next time something slips away, a relationship, a job, or a beautiful moment, we should ask ourselves, did I really lose something? Or did I experience something nice? And just wake up from an illusion I had. As Thich Nhat writes in the heart of the Buddha's teaching.
If we learn to look at a flower in a way that impermanence is revealed to us, when it dies, we will not suffer. Impermanence is more than an idea. It is a practice to help us touch reality.
From what I learned so far, that's the first step toward detachment. Seeing things clearly, rationally, and impermanent. And once we really grasp that happiness cannot depend on the ever-changing outside world, the next question is, so what do I do with my thoughts, emotions, and triggers when they show up? That's another part of the practice, learning to watch ourselves without being consumed by ourselves. All right, let's get practical. How do we actually detach in a moment when we're angry, anxious, or hurt? The key is to become the observer. It's the ability to step back and watch our own mind like an outsider. Psychologists call this metacognition, the ability to notice your own thoughts, and is really powerful. Once you observe your mind, you stop being your mind. Eckhart Tolle said,
When you are present, you can allow the mind to be as it is without getting entangled in it.
And Michael Singer goes further.
You who notice the disturbance are not the disturbance.
That's a huge insight for me. Life-changing, really, if we're able to implement it. But I think that even the monk who lived in a cave for the past 5 years to only sleep, eat and meditate could not bring this to absolute perfection. It is something to strive for, though. And every time we're able to take this path, it will have benefits for our lives. Here are a few techniques to strengthen this. First, as I mentioned before, even language is important. Use distance self-talk. Instead of saying, I can't handle this, or I'm sad, you say, all right, you're going through something tough, but you've handled worse. Even Kross wrote about this in his book, Chatter.
Addressing yourself by name literally reduces emotional intensity and helps you think more clearly.
Second, try the friend's perspective. Imagine your problem happening to your best friend. What advice would you give them? You would talk wiser and kinder. So why not give yourself the same treatment? This little mind exercise seems too simple, but it works. Distance yourself from that feeling or emotion in your words and mind. And this is more than just theory. A study about self-distancing showed the following.
Reflecting from a self-distance perspective was associated with shorter emotions compared with reflecting from a self-immersed perspective.
The Stoics had an exercise called the view from above.
The view from above. Imagine that you are far above the earth in space and looking down upon it. Then remember how small, in the grand scheme of things, your personal troubles really are.
That's distancing, helping you recover faster. You could call this engagement without entanglement. And it's not avoidance. Avoidance says, I don't want to feel this. Detachment says, I can feel this, but I don't have to become it. Anthony de Mello writes in Awareness.
As you do this, you begin to disidentify from me.
And this is the magic moment, when you realize thoughts and feelings are just like clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. When you stop giving that weather your attention, it loses power. Michael Singer said,
The mind runs because you're giving it the power of your attention. Withdraw it, and the thinking mind falls away.
Think about it. For example, before you revisited a painful memory, you felt fine. Then your mind went there, and suddenly you feel rage, sadness, and regret, almost reliving it. That's because you put your attention there. It's like a flashlight in a dark room. You only see what you pointed at. But the whole room is still there. You can always move the light. So next time your mind spirals, don't fight it. Just step back, watch it, name it. Like, oh look, there's anxiety trying to get a word in again. Or, all right, there's my ego, rehearsing arguments. You'll be surprised how much peace appears the moment you stop believing every thought deserves your attention. That's real power. The goal is this: when you stop clinging to people, outcomes, or identities, you unlock a different way of living. Look at many relationships in the world. Needing someone isn't love, it's dependence. I've met people who were clearly looking for a relationship rather than the person to do it with. And that's dangerous, I think. Because then it's not about connection with someone else. It's about filling a hole. And that's dependence. You hand someone the power to complete you, not realizing that you have that within yourself already. Anthony de Mello writes,
You can only love people when you have died to the need for people.
That's when this concept of love stops being manipulation and becomes freedom. It says, I don't need you to make me whole. I'm already whole. And that's exactly why I can love you honestly. The masters say this is when you stop reacting to life and start radiating from within it. Michael Singer writes,
When we are fully present, the soul starts to shine like the sun. The sun doesn't stop shining when there are clouds. The clouds just pass.
They say that paradoxically, detachment makes you more compassionate, not less. Because you stop needing people to act a certain way for you to love them. You stop being a puppet jerked around by approval, fear, or habit. And instead, you become the puppeteer of your own inner stage. And that's the ultimate reward of detachment. Freedom from the uncontrollable. Peace within chaos. Love without fear. So let's bring this full circle and have a little recap of what we spoke about. Detachment isn't rejection. It's clarity. It's choosing reality over illusion. Seeing the addiction to things and accepting impermanence. Developing the observer's way of thinking instead of identifying with your thoughts. And being free and centered, no matter what storms come your way. That's the ideal. So, what do you think? Have you ever had a moment where letting go gave you more peace than holding on? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your take. And if this resonated, check out this video where I spoke about detachment and meditation. Like this episode and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Let's close with this quote and see you in the next one, my friend.
He who clings to nothing can handle anything.